form belts, looking similar to like a tree trunk. As time goes by and creation continues to use its knowledge and so forth and understanding to create this universe, slowly those belts start manifesting at different levels of evolution. And the third belt in is called the material belt. The outer belt is called the push belt, which separates it from the other universes. But the third belt in is where all of the planets, the coarse matter, is evolving. It's similar to like what an egg does. It has different layers in it. Only our universe is divided into 7 layers. It is establishing already that there are 7 levels, 7 different types of energy in our universe. And they all have different things that they do. Each level of energy has different understanding, different knowledge, and different purpose. So the logic of the universe is beginning to be established by virtue of this creational idea, this embodied idea that is creating all of this material. Okay? So this continues on to a point where there is a material belt. And in this material belt, unlike any of the other belts, in here now, the energy matter, the fine matter, begins to get thicker and thicker, denser or denser. If you can imagine nothing and then energy, and what would energy be as it gets a little bit denser? Well, there was no word for it in the German language, so Billy decided to call it fluffy matter. So before it becomes gas, it's what's called fluffy matter. First, there is the thought of the creation. The thought gets thicker, more dense, and turns into fluffy matter. And eventually the fluffy matter then evolves into gaseous states, which are going to form all of our suns and planets through nebulae. Okay? At this particular point, something very important happens, though, in our universe. Once our universe has established a material belt, then time begins. Up until that point, there is no time in the universe because time only acts upon material objects, coarse matter objects, all right? And this time impulse somehow comes into our universe then via the creation from some source of the universe that created us. One universe creates another. There are cycles to universes. So our universe has now evolved to the point where it has a material belt, and time is beginning. When time starts, time is an energy force that moves like waves. It's divided into small units of impulses which speed through the universe in waves. This causes the rotation and animation of the matter. Moving time is now born, and the motion of creation is now started. Creation is creating a universe, we call it, with 7 different layers, 7 different, they're calling it belts, 7 different stages of evolutionary material, each stage having its own function, the 5th stage now having the function of creating material or coarse matter form that we come along. And the reason I draw this point out again is that pay attention to the logic of what the creation is doing to make the universe, because these same principles that are being set in motion pertain to our life, okay, which we're going to get into a little bit later. Okay, so the idea of creation then is continued by the eternity of what's called the Ur, from the original creation, or this absolutum. Spiritual energies are now moving, they're rotating. Fluffy matter is turning into gas. Gases then form, condense over billions and billions of years. And what happens, of course, is what we're aware of now, that these gases then, in these large areas of our universe called nebula, we form into suns, planets are formed and cool down, and they form into solar systems. Nothing unusual about this. We're all aware from school the slow evolution of what our universe actually does. At this particular time in our development, though, we still have this fluffy matter, and I just want to point out at that stage of development there, though, which time has started, time then causes all of this fluffy matter then to start moving. These waves or impulses of time that move through the fluffy matter is how the galaxies and the motion of the universe actually gets started. Because time creates movement, it creates rotation and pulsation of the fluffy matter. And so that's the reason, and by the way, these waves of impulses move in the spiral form. That's why there's no edge to the universe, because the energies all move in this spiral fashion, and they never really come to an end of anything. They're like a continuous movement that keeps moving on. Time, the clock as we think of it, then started way back when. billions of years ago then, even trillions of years ago, when this impulse of time came into our material belt, that's when the clock started ticking. So from that point on, the impulses of time are animating the matter, and the time machine started. And the concept, technology, whatever, of moving in time is the understanding of how these pulses work in the coarse matter world. Time travel then can be reduced simply to the understanding of the impulses of the time factor, where you can actually move up and down these pulses and see matter at different stages of development, which is time traveling. Okay? At this point, though, we have no firmament. There's no stars floating around. That's what happens next. The fluffy matter then rotates, pulsates into spirals, which resemble the egg shape of the original form of this spiral. That continues on. At that point, though, it's a dark universe because we don't have anything except the central sun, but the universe itself is dark. So if we were to see it at that point, it'd just be black, unless we were close enough just to see the central part. The fluffy matter then evolves into galaxies and begins to show very brightly, causing the darkness of space to be broken. Also starts warming it up, because as all of this fluffy matter evolves into gas, the gas becomes more and more condensed and starts creating all of these suns. The suns start putting off great amount of energy. We have electrical magnetic radiation then moving through the universe, starting to affect other coarse matter. This is the beginning then of where astrology would start. And we have heat now. Up till this point, it's probably been pretty cold in the emptiness of space. But logic is being set in pattern here, because every step of the way, all of the fine matter and the coarse matter of the universe have attained their level that they are at through reasoning and understanding. And this is forming the logic exactly of what the universe is, and is laying down, if you will, the laws or the commandments or whatever you want to call them, of what existence is all about. You see, man doesn't come along and establish the rules of the universe. We don't make the laws of creation. The laws, if you want to call them that, are nothing more than the logic of how the universe is working, how the universe came about. And this is how it came about. So it's setting in pattern this numbering of seven layers of development, and the logic then of what life and how life will evolve is being established at these very times as the universe is being created from the idea of the creation. Okay, the evolution will continue, and of course as the suns begin to evolve and come into being, so do the planets who cool down. Their matter will cool down. They fall into formation around the suns, and I'm not going to elaborate here on astronomy and those things because that's not the purpose here. I'm much more interested in just the development of the fine matter or spiritual world and an explanation of how our lives fit into the logic of the universe. So as we would move through then trillions of years of time, the universe itself is going to